Hey there, Dream Chasers. This is Hannah Pryde, and welcome to Pryde Shine, the podcast where we explore the innovators and influencers of Dubai. Proudly sponsored by Pryde Migration, your dedicated partner to make Dubai your reality. Welcome to the podcast, Frankie Lee.
Thank you for having me.
More than welcome. So most people will probably know you from the Frankie Lee Podcast, which is probably where I saw you before you even came to Dubai, which if you haven't listened, listen. And obviously content removal. What initially brought you to Dubai?
The initial thing for me was I'd been in Australia for I left England in 2014 because I thought it's finished, it's done. I kind of saw the writing on the wall early. Yeah. So I went to Australia. I was in Australia for 8.5 years, became a citizen of Australia, had a really good life there. But after I'd got the podcast to number 2 in Australia at the time and built content removal to doing, multi-7 figures, I kind of realised, I'm getting taxed a lot here. I'm getting, I haven't got the access to the guests that I want to grow the show beyond where I was. I couldn't outrank Jordan Peterson in Australia, for argument's sake, with just Australian guests alone. I needed more international guests. So it kind of made sense to me to kind of look at, where can you go in the world to open yourself up to a wider market of guests, a better tax situation, more opportunities, and Dubai kind of resonated for me.
Did you ever think about going to America, or was it always just Dubai?
Well, I kind of wanted Dubai to be a stepping stone to America. I've actually recently just opened up some companies that I'm going to be launching in America because I do want to spend more time in the American market. But I think Dubai was a logical step to go from Australia to Dubai, base yourself in Dubai for maybe a couple of years and then kind of segue into American market.
I mean, America now, especially with Trump, I think a lot of people in Dubai will probably now split their time between the both. And I think with the podcast game over there, look at Call Her Daddy, Alex Cooper, the money they're getting for their podcast is absolutely crazy. You obviously set up content removal. I'm going to go back in time. You set up content removal. I obviously have read about it, but for people that don't know you, what was your fundamentals for starting content removal?
I mean, fundamentally what it was is I like to fix big problems because if you fix big problems on the internet, you can charge lots of money for fixing them. So that's the initial
simple.
That's the initial thing. And obviously content removal as a business, we remove online content for celebrities, brands, influencers, all those kind of people. And then obviously top entrepreneurs as well, and businesses. But essentially I saw an opportunity when I was working in reputation management in sales that, people didn't want to just push down content anymore. They wanted to actually remove it. And I just kind of created the service. I bought contentremoval.com for a start. And then I kind of reverse engineered it back from that. So I sold the concept and then figured out once I'd sold the concept how I was going to deliver the removal because I didn't actually know how to remove content when I sold the concept. So
I think a lot of people do that. Yeah. I know so many people that buy the rights or the website thing before they even set their business just because they really like the name, and then they'll maybe have it a few months, 3 months, 6 months or a year before they'll go, I actually know what I'm going to use for that name.
Yeah, so the client said to me, can you remove online content? And I was in sales, so I was like, well, yes, I'll figure it out how we do that for you. And then I thought, well, content removal is a great name, so I bought contentremoval.com. And it was well, I've got the name, I've kind of got these clients over here. I'm not in contract with this agency anymore because obviously they're playing about and they won't cut me. And I wanted an equity slice in the business, but it wouldn't give it to me. So I thought now's the time. Without signing a contract, I haven't got a non-compete or anything like that, and I'm working in a slightly different niche. So I pivoted out of that, and then I set up content removal. And I think I sold my first deal. Well, actually, how I sold the first deal was I took on a client, a big influencer in Australia, in one of the biggest in the fitness industry. I took her on for 10 removals, and I set the contract up to unlock $132,000 a year in contract once we'd removed 10 links. And I took on 10, 20 links for free, and then I figured out how to remove these 10, 20 links. And then that unlocked the 132 grand a year. So it meant that from starting the business, we were on 132 grand a year retainer. And then inside 3 months of that, we were on $500,000 a year because I'd signed 2 other influencers as well.
It's crazy. And how did you actually learn to take the content down? How did you figure it out?
I was just literally reading up on internet law, legal policies, this, that, the other, everything I could do to kind of figure out how to remove content, and then kind of put an initial process together to get rid of the initial links, and then kind of built it from there.
And you've said something really a lot of people should take advice of this. You gave 20 free links for free. What made you do that
So
at first?
if I know a client is qualified to pay me a lot of money and I can deliver a lot of value on them paying me a lot of money, so if I know that they're qualified for that, then I will do a value unlock and I will say, hey, we'll do this for free. It's not for free because essentially you're paying for it on the back end anyway, but we'll do this initially to free to show value to you. But once we've done this unlocks this within this contract. So you normally a retainer contract. Then that's how I'd initially start any agency business. I'd do retainer unlock.
And I think that's huge in any business, because I think a lot of people provide the contract and say this is what they want before providing any value. So I think you've just told a lot of the followers what to do if you're looking to start up a business, because people always think they're up here before they've actually given any value.
Well, also a lot of agency courses and people like that, they teach you about going for this like 5-10K a month type clients, which is fine, but you should 100% try and go to the top of the market first and work your way back, because what you'll realize is when you're in the agency model is servicing a lot of clients is hard work. So you want to go to the top of the market, work your way back from that, and you'll realize you only need 20-30 clients and you'll be set doing millions and millions a month and not have to worry about it.
And you set up your content removal also at a time where Instagram was starting to grow. TikTok wasn't even a thing then, and I bet at this point it was such an untapped industry now that so many people need access to, with all the tabloid news and everything in between. People need your business now more than ever.
Well, not only is it a business that's going to be constantly growing over the next 10 years, even 15 years, but it's like we're so far ahead in terms of the processes and the game that we're playing that even other reputation management agencies will go, yeah, well, we want to start removing content, but they don't know where to start. And it's not as easy as what you think. You got the basic copyright removals. I understand any man and his dog can do that, but when you've got like young girl, iPhone cloud's been hacked, it's on this server in Azerbaijan, how are you going to sort that out? They don't have the processes to deal with that. So it's like, yeah, it is a growing market, and any man and his dog can say they can do it, but it's very rare to actually find a company that can do it across as many jurisdictions as what we can.
Yeah, and how do you feel now AI is getting integrated in especially the last 2 years? How is that either helping or making a disadvantage to your business?
Well,
you seen it as a hindrance or a help?
No, we've embraced it with some, I mean, to do it at the level that we do it, it requires a real manual process to be able to do it at the level that we do it at. However, what we've done now, obviously we get a lot of clients that can't afford to use us. So we've developed a software as a service platform that we're launching in January, February time that's going to cover all that. You know, that involves a bit of AI and software and stuff like that, and all our processes built in the back end so people can do it themselves. Give a wider market access.
Yeah, because I feel like now, like anything in life, people that are utilising AI to its highest potential are being able to make so much more money because it's taken the back-end resources off them. You can teach the software to write it all for you, do contracts, blah, blah, blah. Then some people are seeing it as such a hindrance, and I guess you could have taken it either way. Some people could have looked at AI and be like, well, that's Frankie's business, that's content removal gone, but you've actually utilised it now to have access to a wider market that maybe need the cheaper or the more entry-level prices, because you just said you started at the higher level.
So it does two things. It streamlines your processes for the higher end clients to make what you do faster, but then it also opens you up to a wider market at the bottom of the game. But also for the back end, for me, it's more about, one, I can service more clients and I can help more people, but then on the back end of that, I can exit the business. Yeah. Whereas exiting an agency model like I've got, what am I going to get? Like a 2.5 to 4x multiple. Exiting a software company for me is a hell of a lot bigger multiple. So it kind of entices me to embrace AI and embrace software. It's
interesting. What would you say has been your biggest learning from setting up content removal? Because obviously 2025, in 2 weeks, you've had this for nearly 8-9 years? You'll have seen a big transfer. No, not 8-9 years, 2020, you'd have seen 5 years. So you've seen a big change in all the new platforms that are coming out and everything. What's been your biggest learning?
2017 is when I set up. I've seen a lot change in terms of the social media platforms, the ways we have to remove content, the ways we can't remove content. I've seen a lot expand. But what I will say to people, just to make it general so that everyone can pick up on this, is like, wherever you're at right now in your life, you can be like 1 or 2 decisions away, and if you structure the contracts right, you can go from earning, say, £100,000 a year or £50,000 a year in England to being able to unlock with the right contract structure a value add that can add millions to a business, but adds hundreds of thousands a year to your bottom line, and start a business inside, 2 or 3 weeks of thinking time.
Yeah.
With just an idea.
And who taught you that? Because obviously a lot of people think you need to go to lawyers and legal and get all these contracts. Who actually taught you what would you call it, the key locks in a contract to be able to open up these doors for you?
So if you look at, I went to Australia, obviously back in 2017. I'm out there, I'm working as a carpenter and joiner on site, and I had a boxing gym, right? And when I had a boxing gym and I was advertising on Facebook, I had a guy come to me and say, hey, Frankie, I want to lose weight. He was 20 odd stone. In that process, I thought that I was taking him on the pads and helping him lose weight, and I was. But whilst that was happening, I was being mentored as well. Like, Frankie, you should start reading books, you should get into sales, you should do this, you should do that. He was advising me. His name was James Gray, still a good friend of mine to today. He's my first kind of mentor that I had, other than a boxing trainer. And he kind of really started to unlock these things within my mind that allow me to think bigger. Even when I had a shop fitting company where I used to go out and fit out Louis Vuittons, Givenchy's, and all these shops around the world, around Australia, he was like, well, why are you doing the shop fitting for, like, say, $5-6 grand a week? Why have you not got 3 or 4 lads working for you, so you're not earning more money? It's just these little things. These people unlock little things, and then you can see something different. And the only reason I could unlock that contract the way that I did when I started content removals was because I first went into sales. If you haven't been in sales, you have no business to be in business, right? Yeah. Because you need to learn that sales and marketing are the funnel to everything that you do anyway. Yeah. So most people go, oh, hey, I'm going to start a business. So the plumber will start a plumbing company, the carpenter will start a carpentry company, the boxing trainer will start a boxing gym. Wrong. It's like I went into sales, and because I went into sales and saw the opportunity, I thought, no, I'm not going to start just a generic business that I'm already in. I'm going to start something in a completely different niche, and it doesn't matter because I know I can sell. Yeah. And that's how I unlock the value in it.
And I think that's a really interesting point. Sales being at the fundamental source of everything, and most people that you'll probably have spoken to in your podcast and I've interviewed here, everyone that's become successful has an added value, whether it's not the pinnacle of what they do, but they have an added value of experience of some type of sales that's given them that unlock of entrepreneurial spirit wherever it is. And it's something I've really taken keynote. People that have been really successful at school or university, and the people that haven't, everyone has been now successful in business has got such a backlog of sales experience, which is crazy.
Well, sales is everything, isn't it? Like, sales is you going and introducing yourself to the woman at the bar to get her number. Sales is you closing that contract. Sales is you putting yourself in any opportunity. Yeah. You've had to sell me to come onto this podcast, but it's sales, yeah. Right? And then I've bought into that, and then maybe I'll sell you on something else that we'll do down the track. But it's like, as long as you look at life as everything you do is based upon sales, yeah. Then it doesn't become such a dirty word anymore. It's
like the start of opening any opportunity, and you can't be scared. I think sales, the fundamental what sales treats you is don't be scared of no. And a lot of other industries they'll have like such a fear of no, but in sales, no is one step closer to a yes. And it's like turning that mindset round into anything you do, and that's what fundamentally sales teaches you. Obviously, you have content removal, and that actually gave you the stepping stone to starting your podcast. Do you think content removal gave you your greatest why to have your podcast? Because obviously now you're unlocking people's potential, and you've seen the detrimental effects that some people's content online has affected them. Do you think that was the reason you wanted to start a podcast, like to get people's opinions out? I
think what I realised was the first problem I had to solve in my life was I needed to make money, because I felt like a poor kid in England. I turned up from a £25,000 a year carpentry job in the UK to now in Australia, where I could perhaps earn 100 grand a year as a carpenter. It's like, it's better, but it's not where I want to be. So like once I'd seen that development, it's like, well, now I can solve the bigger money problem in my life by starting a business. Now I'm like, okay, what's the next problem? The next problem is I'm sat at this computer, I'm earning this money. That's great, I've solved that problem, but I want to speak to people. I feel like I've got something to communicate, and I don't feel like I'm talking enough. I don't feel like I'm asking the right questions. I don't feel like I'm around the right network of people. So that's why I built the podcast. It was to serve other people. I mean, my deepest why was to help people break patterns and flip perspectives in their life so they can have more clarity, more direction, and more success. So my why was about others, but that why then served me on the back end because I get the knowledge as well. Yeah. And then I can apply that to everything I do.
And I think it's interesting what you said, because a lot of people actually, it resonates with me deeply, because a lot of people say, well, why do you have a podcast if you're not making money from it, etc. And I say the greatest skill that you actually learn from a podcast is how to communicate and how to keep going conversation, which when you flip it back into a business side, like yourself in content removal, it actually allows you to communicate to your customer and provide a service at a better level, because you become a better listener. And if we look at all the guests you've had over the last few years, you've done over 100 interviews, if not into the 200s, 300s, yeah. You have interviewed now some of the greatest people within their industry and some of the most controversial. Look at the Tates. The conversation switches, and the end conversation you're getting, or the why, or the learning, you obviously have to change as a person, and I guess be a monkey at the other side of the mic to replicate what you want out of them, because you'll know yourself, whether it be in sales, whether it be in a podcast, it can be really hard to speak to someone and get conversation out of them. Some people can freeze and go, I don't know what to say here. And it's been able to manipulate, probably a bad word to use, but be able to carry on a conversation to get to that deeper level. And it's something you've been really good at.
Yeah, it's about knowing not just the first question to ask, but when you listen to their answer, it's about taking it that one stage deeper, and knowing how to get to someone. Like, even when if you get a chance to watch the podcast I did with Andrew, like the questions, the initial question stimulates him to an answer, but then when I take it one stage deeper, because he's never been took there that many times before, then he starts to think, he starts to pause, he starts to reflect, he starts to put in connecting words to give himself time to think. And when you know, as someone who interviewed a lot of people, I can see he's doing that. That shows that you're stimulating someone in the conversation. So I think it's not just the first question. It's like, if you can learn to ask the first question that unlocks the door, and then listen intently enough to be able to ask an articulate second question that can really unlock what that person wants, that will help you in a sales conversation. It will help you in life as well, because you can get to the real core crux of what someone's about, and then ultimately they feel heard, and by letting them feel heard, you build rapport anyway.
Of course. And being able to, you obviously said you moved to Dubai fundamentally to get better guests from Australia. What open doors what doors have been open since moving to Dubai when it comes to your guests? Was that the reason you got Tate on, or have you had any huge guests just from being based in Dubai?
Yeah, so like even just like I was in Australia, and I'd just done like Kayla Adsinez, I'd done Adam Sullivan podcast, and they're big people in the fitness industry. I'd done a couple of big ones over there, and I flew directly back to Dubai. And I literally walked in the gym to get over jet lag. And Tam Khan said to me, he walked in, he goes, brother, your podcast's doing really well. You've upped the level it. Are you ready for Andrew? And I went, oh, yes. So it's on the table then. Does he want to do it? And he goes, yeah, cool. Voice noted him. Done. Inside less than a minute, that podcast was booked. How was it booked? It was booked because for the last 3-4 years, I've been coming to Dubai. I've built my reputation. I've built my connection with Tam, and we've both helped each other in business, so I got the connection there, and that meant that within that minute that podcast could be booked. And like other people are paying like Tate £100,000 for him to appear on their podcast, I didn't have to pay anything, because I've got the rapport and I've got the respect, because I've done the reps in the podcast game, and I've done the reps in business that allow me to open those doors. So that's the value of coming to a place like Dubai, but you have to be willing to exchange some value to be able to unlock doors.
And I think that's something that people really, and I always say to people, when you come to Dubai, it's a lot about collaboration. It's a lot about doing stuff for free or helping people out. And the more you help out, the more you actually gain in the long run, because people are more willing to introduce you to the right people, or do business, or speak to you of a higher value. And you'll have seen yourself how small Dubai is. One fuck up and actually out the game. There's no respect for you. People don't trust you, and people don't want to do business with you on a long term. Will you ever charge, or will you ever pay someone to come on your podcast?
I think, I always said no, but then I thought to myself, is that a good commercial decision? And that's probably not a good commercial decision to be that absolute on something. If I'm absolute on something like that, like no, I want to know, okay, what's triggering me to be absolute? Because I think by saying no, I'm in lack, and I don't need to be in lack of money. Like, if the right guest comes along, and it'll add value to the audience, and it'll also unlock new levels and open up new doors, it would be mad to say that you wouldn't pay a guest. I know that someone like Stephen Bartlett, for example, he's paid an horrendous amount of guests to come on his show in the early days to unlock the doors that he's unlocked. And that's transpired in the growth that he's had. So, you know, it would be nonsensical of me to say never. I mean, at this moment, I haven't had to. But if it comes to the point where I need to and I have to unlock a door, then I'm not adverse to it.
And how are you, this is something we've never spoken about, how are you like, obviously content removal is your biggest sponsor, but when we look at podcasts, let's say in America and whatnot, and now being in Dubai, the podcast game, everyone and their dog seems to be chucking out podcasts left, right and centre. How is your area going to, like, how are you going to financially, are you looking for a sponsor now? Are you looking for someone to like sponsor it on the certain, let's say a gym in Dubai because you're into boxing, or a business in Dubai? Are you looking for other sponsors for your podcast now you're based here to unlock the levels, or are you still wanting content removal? I mean, I've had advanced talks with some really big brands, and I'm still in an advanced talk with one brand right now. However, like, I've turned down most of the others. I don't really want a brand like an AG1 or a Manscaped or someone like that to sponsor the podcast, because every man and his dog has them on their podcast, and I don't really feel like I'm in full alignment. If the right brand comes along, and again, it's the right collaboration. So it's not just about money, it's about how many doors can you unlock. Because if you're just about money, I don't really need the money, because my business makes money. Yeah. So it's like I've allowed to delay the gratification for like 5 years whilst building the podcast, because I've actually got the money to fund the thing without having to worry about this business over here paying me a little bit of change for some affiliate code. I don't want to be the 10% off guy. You know, the guy that goes, put this code in for 10% off. I can't. It would kill my soul. Yeah. Because I do proper business with proper people, so I don't want to do that. So again, if it's the right brand, I resonate with it. Like if someone like Gymshark said to me, or Lululemon, or something that I wear activewear wise, I'd be like, okay, I'll consider that because I resonate with it. I'm not going to do any deal just predicated on money, because that is the fastest way to send yourself broke over a long enough time frame, because you've not thought about value creation. You've thought about taking chips off the table. Yeah. The way I work is, the more money that can be left on the table in value terms for everyone else, the more money you get on the back end anyway. 100%, and I think that's in every concept of business, and a lot of people chase the penny rather than, my gran used to always say, look after the pennies because the pounds will look after themselves. And I think a lot of people, especially in Dubai, they'll maybe they'll spread themselves too thin, or they'll take on too much work because they're chasing to get the big bucks, when if you just look after the small things and the stuff that's going to bring you value in the long term, you will make the pounds on a much greater and more steady level, which is interesting. When it comes to being in Dubai, how have you seen your podcast grow?
I've grown mainly outside of Dubai, in terms of, like, you know, a lot of the people that are in Dubai have got audiences elsewhere, like the UK, America, Australia. So I've not really seen the growth within Dubai, in essence, but it has allowed me to connect with a lot of other.
It's interesting that, isn't it? Because Dubai is generally an international hub of the world, and what you've just said there is a key point of how Dubai, I personally think, is so successful. Look at all the cultures, all the festives we celebrate. People are like, I can't believe Dubai celebrate Christmas, but we'll celebrate the Chinese New Year and every other holiday after that. And it's interesting, is if you're selling real estate or have a podcast in Dubai and you do these link-ups and collaborations with people to grow your Instagram feed, it is usually the higher end of the world. Whereas if you were to just do your podcast in Australia, I bet it was just this Australian market that would grow and grow and grow.
Well, I think I was growing mainly in like the UK a little bit, and then I think before I came to Dubai and became more of an international podcast, I think I was 70% Australian and then 30% UK.
It's crazy. Audience. And when it comes to content removal, obviously in Dubai, people probably don't know this, you're actually not allowed to, there's no tabloid news here, you're not allowed to take pictures or whatnot. It's very hard to share explicit content here, or you would end up in prison. Have you seen you get more clients within Dubai that's maybe they're wanting to clear their past, now they're living here, or have you been able to open your business up to the wider market?
Yeah, so there is a lot of wealthy people in Dubai that do want to remove content, and there's also a lot of, you know, in the Arab Emirates, there's quite a lot of royal families, as you know, that don't want pictures of their children online, that don't want anything online, and European royal families are the same. So those are markets that we work in as well. So we're working at the kind of higher end of it. we have cleared up for like, even had like the OnlyFans models want to clear up their leaks or want to retire, hang up their heels and all that kind of stuff. They need to clear up content as well.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Even if like you've had a full OnlyFans subscription, you can clear it all after that.
I've given thousands of women a chance at dating again. They'd never be able
Really?
to, 100%. They'd never be able to have a boyfriend if the kind of content was online the way it was before, because you wouldn't be able to date.
Do you think, and this is probably a little bit off topic, but I'm really intrigued, do you think a lot of people that you see that have maybe had an online fan space and they've made all this money, do you think they regret it in any way if they're now coming to you for that content removal?
The truth is, having spoken to... I actually sent... This is topical. I actually sent an email to Lily Phillips about 4 or 5 days ago, pleading with her to not do what she's about to do, because I've spoken to so many women at the top of this game, whether it be the porn industry, whether it be OnlyFans or whatever you want to call it, and the detrimental damage I know that it does to a woman's mental health by putting explicit content online is unmatched. And regardless of how much money a woman ever obtains from doing this, over a long enough time frame, the mental problems that it causes and the effects it has on her life are so deep and so wounded that you can't even compare it. Like, it hurts my heart because I've got a sister, and if my sister went into something like that, it'd just kill my soul. So I try and save as many women from doing that and repeating those processes as possible. And this is why a lot of the women that we've looked after on a retained basis over a long enough time frame, we've got them to retire from the industry, because we don't want to be looking after them in that respect. To be honest, they're not our best paying clients, but I've got many of them, especially in the UK market and the Australian market, to like, stop doing this. Yeah, you can't. This is not how.
I think people forget, don't they, when they maybe do it on a one-off, off the whim or something, that is there for life. And that's now with all the clouds and all the systems, it's very, very hard to actually, I mean, you can do it, but it's very hard to realise how many iCloud saves on the phone is wherever in the cloud it is. It's very hard to stop it. You got screen recordings. You got to think about, you can, look, there's a girl in America that's made like 43 million a year. Cool. Anomaly. She is an anomaly. Most of the girls that do it are not making anywhere near that. And if you're a girl that's doing it and you're under an agency, the agency's taking 50%. That's
me
crazy.
and you both know guys that are in America right now, in LA, living it up, buying flash cars. Who's paying for it? The girls that work for them. Who's getting damaged mentally, physically, emotionally? The women. Shouldn't be doing it. And it should be absolutely frowned upon, because that's why this business exists, is to protect people like that from their own self. Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it? I feel like there's just been such a phase of it since COVID, and there were so many girls here at one point that lived here and do it, but I don't really see or hear of people that live in Dubai anymore that are within that industry as much, which is, I don't know, maybe we'll see it slowing down.
I think they've got to be careful what they say online. Most of them go around as, and no offense to you, but some of them might pretend to be a real estate agent. One of them might pretend to be a personal trainer. They might pretend to be other things online, but they're still actively doing that industry. So they're actively playing that game. It's crazy, isn't it? Dubai has its hidden corners, shall we say. What has been your biggest struggle since moving from Australia to Dubai? Because from what I've heard, I've never been to Australia, but obviously Australia has a very different work concept and living concept that maybe Dubai has. What's been your biggest struggle and the change? The biggest struggle for me is obviously the lack of nature compared to Australia has been the biggest struggle. And then also, and I didn't want to talk about it, but if we're going to talk about the biggest struggle, we can't really forget it, can we? But the dating scene is a little bit distraught, I don't think it is distraught. Everyone says it, but do you know what? Like, we all make jokes and everything about it. But I personally think when guys are moving here brand new, they're maybe looking in the wrong places, because I now know, I've been here 4 years, I'm coming up 5 years next year, which is bloody crazy, but I have seen such a change, and I know multiple people now that have actually met in Dubai and got married within Dubai. And I genuinely think now, with all the communities that are getting built through like empowerment and health and walking, there's a lot of good people there that have actually came from really good places, and they're not on the scene, they're just hidden and in their own little clusters and in their own little communities. And I keep saying, like, I laugh because it is a thing, but I do honestly think now, with the amount of marriages I've seen in the last 4 years of people that I've met in Dubai, I'm like, maybe it isn't that bad. Maybe the people that are saying it's horrendous
are looking in the wrong bloody places.
Horrendous wouldn't be the word I use. It's just more challenging in the market.
Yeah, it definitely is more challenging.
In a market like this where, you know, everyone's good looking and everyone's you know, successful or perceived as successful on the outside, it's a very challenging place to kind of come to and figure out who's actually who and who actually stands up. Like in terms of like, can you stand up their credentials based upon what their Instagram looks like? You know, because a lot of people look like something on Instagram here, but aren't really like that. Don't really have a business. Don't really have a conscience. Don't really have a good reputation. And all I'll say to any men and women watching this is that in Dubai, you've got to be very careful who you surround yourself with in the dating scene, because it can reputationally damage you with other people. Like if you might know 10 elegant girls, but if they say, "Oh, Frankie's been with this unelegant girl over here," that damages my reputation in that. And realm.
That's one thing I would really focus on: reputation in every area of Dubai, whether it's business, dating, and everything. It's pinnacle here, because although Dubai's, everyone's a big city, it's like living in a village. Everyone knows everyone. And if you've got one bad reputation, it can be very, very hard to wipe the floor with it, because everyone just remembers it because it's so small. Although it's nice in some sense, it's like being back at school. They'll remember it for a few days and they'll forget about it, but it'll always be in their subconscious. If someone mentions it and you're not there, it can be picked up again. But in reality, it's a crazily small place. It's wild.
Absolutely.
I
agree
wild.
1,000% with you how small it is.
It's so small. What has been your biggest growth period of being in Dubai? Because obviously I know the people that you hang around with, they're all super successful, and you're all running from the same hymn sheet, shall we say. You're all very focused on what you're getting. What has been your biggest credibility or achievement being here?
I think obviously the first big time, I think, was June 2023. I think I went on a good run with the podcast game there, or maybe even June 2022. I can't remember which one, but I went on a real big run there. I had Sadia Khan on and people like that on, and Justin Waller and a few other people, and the channel just exploded. That was the first initial month period that I really had success. I've had back-end success in business here and unlocked a lot of doors, but the period I'm in right now in terms of last month and, you know, doing all that has really expanded me. You know, going to Romania, doing the Tape podcast, that's helped me out on YouTube, some back-end stuff. And then with everything that I'm building to launch next year, I feel like this year, 2024, has been putting the building blocks together to be able to unlock more value next year.
And I think a lot of people are actually experiencing that in Dubai. When they first move over, they're obviously chucked to the side. And I don't really know about yourself or your story in that sense, but a lot of people sometimes have to move diagonally downwards or diagonally to the side, whether it become to their housing, their living, because it's so expensive to actually move here, and a lot of people don't recognise it. Then they get themselves back up, and then they get knocked down a few pegs because they start becoming to grow their business or growing their reputation. And you might have been yourself. Have you ever struggled with imposter syndrome of being like, I'm not there yet? Because everyone's obviously functioning on such a high level and high energy here. Sometimes it can knock you. You say you've exactly just said you had areas. It's not been a smooth line. It's been like June here, and there's been pivotal months or weeks in Dubai. Within those other areas, have you experienced imposter syndrome? Or
not so much imposter syndrome, but I just experienced, like, for me, I could only be in Dubai for like 1, 2, maybe 3 months. Then I'd have to dip out, and then I'd have to come back, because I need to connect with myself and with nature again to be able to have that different perspective. Then I come back with fresh eyes. I can find myself being a bit hateful of Dubai after I've been here for like 3 months or something, because I'm like, it's just it's annoying. Yeah. I'm getting a bit not anxiety, a bit like antsy about it. Yeah. Then I go spend a month or 2 in Australia, chill out again, and then I'm good again.
It's like you need that time of reflection, and I think a lot of people that live here, that's why so many people, and that's why I think all these communities of empowerment and health have really expanded and grown in such a high speed, because sometimes you do need to disconnect from maybe the hustle and bustle of Dubai to reflect and realise how far you've actually come, because you're always on a hamster wheel, and before you know it's the end of the week and you're like, I don't know what I've achieved. But when you pull yourself out of it and actually look back, you've achieved far more in a short period of time than maybe you would have in Australia.
It's a very fast-paced life, and I don't do all like the entrepreneurial dinners. I might accept like one of them every like 2 or 3 weeks and things like that, because I get invited to a lot of stuff. I accept basically one thing every 3 weeks. That's my lot. Most of my time, most of my day, if people look to me, I wake up, I go to the gym, I go train. Once I've done that, and I've done a few steps in the morning, I sit in front of a laptop in my own apartment or at somewhere else, wherever, and I'm just working away. I'm working on my business. I'm working on building stuff.
Yeah.
And I collapse time by doing that. And then, you know, I might go see my mate for, might go for a Lebanese or whatever I'm going to do. Might go to a restaurant, whatever. Then I'm in bed by 10. I'll do the same thing. Like it doesn't matter whether it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I do it every day. Same thing.
Yeah, miniature building blocks.
I use Dubai to collapse time. Mm-hmm. That's what everyone should use Dubai for. Just collapse time in their life. Maybe you can be a bit more balanced in terms of your work output when you're in your like late 40s. But at the stage I'm at in life right now, I'm like, right, I need to create this over here and this over here because I want to exit this for 10 million. I want to do that for 20 million. I want exits in my life.
And you know the thing is, and maybe people on this podcast come like, that's so out of reach, like those numbers, working at the weekend, that's not right. But I think anyone that is thinking of moving to Dubai or setting up their business, this is what we see as normal, and this is working at the weekends, working on our laptops, exiting for this price, speaking to people on that level of numbers. It becomes so normalised here because you hear it all the time, and it gives you that acceleration. I'm sure in Australia people are like, I'm just going to go to the beach now, like it's 4 p.m. And it's having that comparison, and I think that's where this podcast is really why we've built it, is to give people the inside scoop of what it actually is to have a business here, what it actually is to be around these people and be in this high pace as this becomes normal.
Yeah, I mean, I live by the calendar. So like, obviously I know that we've got this podcast right now. Mm-hmm. But up until I just really thought about it, I didn't know. I think it's a Wednesday. I didn't know. I didn't even know it was a Wednesday until I was thinking about it when you asked me that question. I was thinking about what day is it today? Because I don't know. Because every day to me is like I'm just working. I'm working because I set my goals.
Yeah.
I pick out the 3 goals: one in podcasting, one in business, one in life, and I work diligently towards executing on those goals.
Yeah.
And then I break the subframe down into what I want to achieve. Right. Well, once I've got that, and once I know where I'm going, I'm like, right, I'm just going to work on that.
Yeah.
And all the other crap and all the other noise and other people's opinions and all that just falls off, and you just get in this work zone, and that's what Dubai is for me.
It's crazy. Final question: if you were to do it all again, moving to Dubai, would you change anything?
Yeah, I would make sure that I'm set up in the right free zone with the right structure. I would make sure that you're aware that, you know, banking can take a little bit longer than what people tell you it can. I would make sure that you know, it probably works out. The way I'm living right now is a bit more expensive way of living than most people would want to do, because I rent month to month Airbnbs, Blue Grounds, things like that. I would advise that you just pick a decent location and get some insight from location from someone like yourself, and you just rent a place for a year, and you just accept that you're not going to live in it for 6 months a year. Yeah,
and you know, I want to point on your expenses. I know people that move from Australia, from America, from the UK, and they cannot believe how expensive Dubai is on like the stuff that you wouldn't expect is expensive. So like your food, your taxi, not your taxis, but the amount of taxis you do end up being more expensive because you're always out. Your taxis in general are super cheap. But if you've not got a car at the start, you're taxiing every single place because everyone's always on the move. But anyone that is thinking, and I'm wanting to touch on it, is double what you think you're going to move over with, just because of all the hidden expenses, for costs and everything, just double it. But thank you so much for coming on. It was great to speak to you and get to interview you for once.
Yeah, no, it was nice for the tables to turn for a change. But no, I appreciate it, and I hope you guys get some value out of it.
Perfect.